You are now listening to the Heroes for Sale podcast. Whether you are a new collector or a seasoned pro, on a daily basis, I cover topics to help you grow your hobby knowledge and strategies to make you money in the market. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the show. My name is Adam. I am your host. So on today's episode, we're going to be talking about Topps Champions League, which has finally been released. Finally, it has been months and months and months. I remember back in maybe January or February looking at the dates, and these products, the Topps Champions League and Topps Bundesliga, were supposed to come out in the June area, but now they're finally out. But before we get into the episode, I want to give a huge shout out to Twitter. I want to give a huge shout out to everybody over at 1:37 p.m. I want to thank hold on, I'm pulling it up. I want to thank Jason. I want to make sure I pronounce his last name right, so I want to pull it up before. I think it's Kopel, but I want to just make sure that I am pronouncing it correctly. So yes, Jason Kopel for putting together the top 14 podcasts. Now, he reached out to everybody that was on the list and said that the list was not a ranking of the podcasts, which, obviously they're going to put Card Talk at the top because that's the 1:37 p.m. podcast. So, although I am at 14, they said that it wasn't a rank of the actual podcast. It was done in a random order, which, look, I'm fine being at 14. I think that's what I think. Being on this list is so awesome and insane. Like the other creators that are on this list are, in my opinion, some of the best creators in the industry. I think it's so awesome that, to think about that there's 14 different sports card podcasts that you can listen to nowadays. And then, there's tons of other ones that are phenomenal. And if you go into that thread, so if you go to Gary V's tweet and you go into the thread, you're going to find other podcasts, and there are other ones that are really good. So I would suggest going to that tweet to find, I guess if you listen to this podcast, you like this podcast, and I'm hoping that you continue to listen to the podcast. But I would also say, go and try out some of the other podcasts because they're all phenomenal. And then even try out, because podcasting, it's the podcasts, they're different for everybody. So, one person might like one style podcast, one person might not like one other style podcast. But either way, like I said, I want to thank everybody at 1:37 p.m. for putting me on that list. It's such an honor to be included with such awesome creators. So, thank you guys. Really appreciate that. Now, into the Topps Champions League discussion here. So, the product is out. The checklist released yesterday. I think it is a pretty good checklist. I think the two biggest names, the most important names in my opinion that were on there were Ansu Fati and Erling Haaland, who I think I tweeted this out. Every single time I make a TikTok about him, no matter how I pronounce his name, someone inevitably will be like, you pronounce his name wrong. And it's like, I'm going to pronounce it however I'm going to pronounce it at the time. I'm sorry that if I pronounce it incorrectly. Erling Haaland. I'm not sure if that's how it's pronounced. I'm not sure if it's Holland. I'm not sure if it's pronounced some other way. But they're both on this checklist, and that's really good. And I think the one thing that Topps did on the checklist that I was worried about, but I also... I was sort of worried, I would say, because anytime someone reached out to me about him, because obviously winning the Golden Boy, he's the best young player, which coming from Salzburg last December probably, and then in January of 2020, going over to Dortmund and basically scoring in every single game. I saw a statistic that said in his career so far, he's averaging 1.3 goals per game. And I think number 2 was Messi, who was averaging 0.9 goals per game in the Champions League. Or maybe it was Harry Kane. I don't remember who was second on the list, but he was first on the list. And granted, he's only played in last season and then this season. But still, on average, he's got 1.3 goals a game, which obviously because he scored more goals in games. He obviously, I don't have to explain this to you. But so he has come from Salzburg, which I still go back to probably the most random, most correct call that I've ever made in a year's span was Haaland, because and then Kai Havertz was the other one, which is those two were I need to go back and look at what I saw and what drove me to look into those players. Now Havertz I bought because he had cards from 2018. At the time, Haaland didn't have any cards. So, he had the Topps Now card, which I am disappointed in myself for not buying at the time. It was a Topps Champions League. He scored a hat-trick in last season's group stage, and he got a Topps Now card, which at the time they didn't have the rookie card logo. But that's going to be his first card. It only has 130. It is absolutely, or 139, I forget the exact number, but it's around the 130, 140 range. It's absolutely insane to think back, especially when you had there was one of the teenagers, I'm actually going to pull up his name. There was a recent Topps Now card that came out that was, what's the player's name? It's one of the young players for Dortmund. It's a Bundesliga Topps Now. It's not even a Topps Champions League Topps Now. So I think I'm going to butcher this person's name. Yusafa Mukaku. If that's not how you pronounce his name, I'm completely sorry, and I'll have to hear the name, because that's sometimes what happens with soccer. I'll watch a highlight or something, and I'll hear how they pronounce the name. Like Kai Havertz, I incorrectly pronounced that player's name for months. I think I think I pronounced it I don't even remember, but I must have pronounced it wrong until I finally was just I need to make sure I'm getting this correct, because I know I'm going to be talking about this guy, so I need to make sure I'm getting it. So, but the point was, this Topps Now card had a print run of 43,697 to be exact. I also think that there is a Curtis Jones Topps Now card. Now, I don't think I've talked about Curtis Jones on the podcast, but my guy at the last job that I had was a soccer guy, and he was a Liverpool fan, and he put me on to Pulisic. He's another player where I've heard it pronounced a bunch of different ways. I'm going to pronounce it Pulisic, because that's just if it's Pulisic, if I hear that enough, that's how I'll pronounce it. But like I said, I'm going to pronounce it how I pronounce it. He put me on to Pulisic. He put me on to... Pulisic really was the guy, and this was when I was this is after I got back from the National. I was talking to him about soccer and soccer cards, and he was just like, yeah, the top American player is Pulisic, and he's going to play for Chelsea, so you should follow him. And I was like, holy crap, I like Chelsea, and that was, like I said, that was right when I was getting back into soccer, so that was really great. And he was like, Curtis Jones is the next guy. He's in the youth academy right now, and this was maybe a year and a half ago, so he was on the youth team. And then he comes in, he had some crazy goal. Also, Weston McKennie's goal in the Champions League was amazing. Also, I think the fact that he scored that goal the fact that potentially he scored a goal in what is potentially the last time Messi and Ronaldo play is actually a huge deal. Now, Messi obviously didn't play as well. I think Juventus won 3-0. But Pulisic McKennie scored a ridiculous goal in that game. And the fact that there's potential that he may have scored the game, or he may have scored in the game that was the last time that Messi and Ronaldo played, is it's mind-boggling. It's crazy. But so, I know I'm going off on a tangent here with U.S. soccer, and I'm sorry if you're not a U.S. soccer fan. I'm sorry that I don't know. I'm just so excited about the team. It's just ridiculous. Everybody all over the place. Over the weekend, it was the first time that 3 players had scored in the same day in a European league since 2005, and it was actually the first time that an American had scored for Juventus with McKennie. McKennie scored his first goal over the weekend. Reyna, Reyna, Gio Reyna, or Reyna. Yeah. He scored for Dortmund. Pulisic scored for, which I just pronounced it differently, but whatever. He scored for Chelsea. First time that 3 Americans have scored in those 3 different leagues on the same day ever. Now, first time that 3 Americans have scored in a European league since 2004. Absolutely insane. And then the next day, Alex Morgan scores her first goal for Tottenham. So that's awesome too. Seeing American women over in the Premier League, in the Women's Premier League. I mean, the Premier League is the biggest league in the world. So like I would say it's probably the same for the Women's League as well. So that's amazing. So America had a great weekend for soccer. So back to this Topps Champions League product. We had Haaland, who was in here, who was in this product. And I don't know if I finished the point, but on the podcast, I was talking about Haaland as a player to watch out for. And then he goes to Dortmund, and then he has the year he had. It was one of the wildest calls that I think I've ever... I would say that is the call that I was the most correct on. And it was after he scored the hat trick in the Champions League group stage. So, like, you may look at it and say, well, I think everybody knew. I don't know. I mean, at the time, I don't think soccer wasn't where it was. So I feel like me and then like maybe Slabstox were the only people really talking about soccer. And at the time, I don't even know if Slabstox had really started their Slabstox FC page. And I think, because I talked to Aaron and I talked to people about soccer all the time. And I talked to Aaron and I was like, we were talking about content, I think. And he was like, I don't want to make content yet. And I don't think it was at the time. I don't remember exactly when he said this. It might have been over the summer. But then they made the Slabstox FC page to kind of just cover soccer, which I think was a phenomenal idea. So really, I think I was the only person covering soccer in sports cards, at least the way that I was. I'm sure there's people that were talking about soccer, and I don't want to disrespect anybody that was talking about soccer, because I'm sure there were accounts out there that were talking soccer just like I was. But on the podcast, I think it was actually an Instagram Live where I was looking. I was like, this is a move. Like, you look at the smaller teams in the Champions League and you look at their top players and their potential. And then Haaland, I think, had just scored the hat trick, and then in January he goes. So absolutely wild. So he's in this one. And the one thing that I'm glad that I'm glad that Topps didn't do this. I'm glad that they didn't include him in a Salzburg jersey, because if they had done that for the whole year's worth of 2019, 2020 products to come out, and then for Haaland to be in a bunch of these different products, especially in a bunch of Dortmund products, and then for them to have, and he has a Topps Finest Salzburg card, I understand that. I think it's short printed. I forget which order they did it in. I'm pretty sure the Salzburg card is short printed. So that's why I was optimistic. And I think if you go back to, there was an episode where I talked about Topps Finest. I forget, this must have been like during the summer. It must have been months ago. I don't remember exactly when it was, but I was nervous they were going to include him in a Salzburg jersey, because that would have turned the whole market on its head, I think. Because, PSA 10s of his cards are pretty expensive already for the Topps Chrome Bundesliga with him in the Dortmund jersey. And I think if they'd put him in the Salzburg jersey, that would have been the card that I think people would have wanted, which I think it is good that they didn't include that Salzburg card, because if they had, like I said, it would have turned the whole market upside down. And I think that would have been actually a bad thing. So, although I'm disappointed that, now we don't have I'm disappointed that we don't have a card for Haaland that is going to be the clear-cut one to invest in. I think the 2 Topps Chrome cards are probably going to be the Topps Chrome Bundesliga, Topps Chrome Champions League will probably be the top 2, and then probably Topps Finest, maybe number 3, and then, I would say probably the Topps Living set is probably number 3, and there's always tiers too. So I would say tier 1 is going to be Topps Chrome Champions League, Topps Chrome Bundesliga. Tier 2 is probably going to be I would say it's probably the Topps Living set card, and then the Topps Finest card. I'm trying to think of any other major products he would have been in. I mean, I think obviously the Topps Now card is the one that you're going to want to get, but at this point, I mean, that one is extremely expensive considering what has happened to kind of the brand of Topps Now. So that's what it is for Haaland. So he's got the Dortmund jersey on. I think if I had to choose, I would say the Bundesliga one will be the one to get because it just came out first. I think that's it's the same with Weston McKennie. Weston McKennie in 2018 has a Champions League and a Bundesliga card, and I think the Bundesliga one will probably be it, but I think also it really is going to depend. I think Champions League could ultimately be the one that you want to get, but I think it's going to come down to maybe like just how many PSA 10s there are of each card because they came out in the same year. So it's like, what's really the difference? Like, is the fact that the Bundesliga card uses the previous year's design a big deal? Like, are people going to be confused that card came out in the same year as the Topps Chrome Champions League? I don't know. We'll see. So Fati also in there. None of the 2019 products are going to have the rookie card logo. I think they pretty much established that with this product coming out so late and not having the rookie card logo. I think that makes sense. But Fati is in here. I think that's probably going to be a big card. I would still say the Mega Cracks rookie is going to be his biggest card, but I do think that this card is going to be a very, very close second. Just from a collection standpoint, I mean, Topps Chrome is going to be one of the brands that has been around in soccer for one of the longest, other than like Prism in 2014. So I think that's one reason why Topps Chrome is going to be good for him. Also, you got the first Pulisic Chelsea card. That's one that I'll probably be picking up a couple of. I think that style of investing is going to be, I think that is an angle that people are going to take. They're going to take the first big league card for a player. Now, you could say, well, I mean, he played in the Bundesliga, which is a big league, and I would say yes. Playing for Dortmund also is a big deal. But I think moving from Dortmund to Chelsea, especially because Chelsea is like, from what I've heard, it's the team that a lot of Americans like for some reason. I think it's because I'm not 100% sure, and I'm not sure if this is correct, and anybody who's into soccer maybe can correct me here if I'm wrong, but I've heard Chelsea categorized as like the American Premier League team, like it's the most Americanized Premier League team, and I don't know if that's true or not. Like that's just what I've heard. But I think I watched like a couple videos about it. But then also the fact that then Pulisic goes there, I mean, it's huge. It's phenomenal. So I think that's going to be a move. I think the whichever team Mbappe goes to, like I think that card's going to be a big card. Like if he goes to Real Madrid or if he goes to Liverpool, I think that's going to be a big card for that player. I also look at it and I say, well, there's the Champions League card, and then there's also the Champions League Topps Chrome, and then there's also the Prism card, which I don't really like the Prism card, unfortunately, and I don't like the Prism card because it's not him playing. Like, for whatever reason, I don't know if they rushed the product coming out or what happened, but they didn't get a picture. I don't know why they couldn't have got a picture of him playing, obviously, because I think they came out with the product before he had played in the game, but, I don't know, figure out a way to get him on the field in a Chelsea uniform, and that card is 10 times bigger than it is right now, in my opinion. So that's why, for Pulisic, I'm choosing the Topps Chrome over the Prism when it comes to the first big league card. And let's see. I mean, I think that's also going to be a very interesting dynamic, which card, because I think we have a lot of things that are going to be still wait and sees for which card is going to be better. Because that's like one of the things is like when people were asking me about Haaland, which card should I get? In my opinion, I told them I think the Topps Chrome Bundesliga card's probably number one, and then you probably just have like a slew of other ones that are in the mix, like if you want to buy them. But if he's in a Salzburg jersey in the Topps Chrome product that comes out, that's going to be the card that you want to get. That's going to be the most important card. They didn't come out with it, so now it's probably those two Topps Chrome cards are still my answer, and then the next round is probably just like the rest of whatever you want to choose. let's see. I mean, they didn't include Serginho Dest on this list, which I was a little bit disappointed by. That would have been his first. If he was in an Ajax uniform, that would have been one of his first Topps Chrome cards. I think he is in. He's in one other product. I think he's in the Topps Match Attack. I think now, if you're looking for desk cards, which he's a defender, so I'm not sure exactly where his cards kind of fall when it comes to top players that are American. And we'll see, because defenders may end up being like pitchers or defensive players in the NFL, pitchers in the MLB, or big men in the NBA. They may just be a nice to have. They may not be like the key investment piece that you want to look into if you're looking into soccer. So, but he does score, so that's kind of the other thing. I don't know, like it's kind of like Davies. Like Davies scores, so like although he's a defender, I think that he has attributes that contribute to why his cards are going to be maybe more desirable than some other defenders that maybe don't score or whatever. Let's see, who else wasn't on there? Foden wasn't on there, but I mean, he has cards from 2018. Like he has a optic card from 2018, which I think is pretty big. He has a I mean, that's pretty much the big one. I think he has a Topps Chrome card. I'm not 100% sure, but if you're looking for Foden, I would go with the optic card or Donruss, whichever one. What were some of the other names that weren't on there? I mean, Rainier wasn't on there, but I kind of expected that, just considering he was he was on the Bundesliga checklist. Let's see. I don't think there was anybody else that I really was dying to get on there, especially because this product is a 2019 product. So, like, this year, I don't think they were going to be including any big names that really made a splash. Like, the January transfer window and then the games after that were probably the most important for that product. Those were going to be the most important. And I think that they also didn't want to include some names because they do have, I think, the Topps Chrome Champions League for next year. That comes out pretty soon. I'm going to look up the exact date right now. Release date for next year's Topps Chrome Champions League is going to be February 3rd. So and I've seen some of the photos of the cards, and Jude Bellingham is going to be in there with the rookie logo. So that means these cards are going to have rookie card logos. I think I don't know. I'm not sure what Topps is really going to do with soccer this upcoming year. I wouldn't be surprised if we get like some sort of Topps update. Like if we get like a Topps update soccer product that comes out like during the summer, like maybe after the Champions League is over, that like is a product that includes the players that played in the round of 16. Like I think Aronson could be, or Aronson, like he's another player where I've heard his name pronounced a bunch of different ways. Brendan Aronson, I'm going to call him Aronson from now on too. I don't know. I'm going to call him whatever I want to call him whenever I say his name. So Brendan Aronson, he's most likely going to be going to Salzburg, which if you're listening to this podcast on Wednesday, if Salzburg wins, that means that he has a chance probably to play in the round of 16 after the January transfer window. Because, I mean, that's what happened with Haaland. He transferred in January and then he played in the round of 16, which is that's such a wild thing. Like, in my opinion, like, imagine if like American sports were just like, yeah, you can make a trade during the playoffs. Like you can make it, we'll have like the season and you can't make any actually, it's wild that they do it this way, sort of. But imagine if like right before the playoffs, you can just make a trade and bring in, like Dortmund brought in Haaland, who was one of the hottest prospects in the sport. So like, that's wild. So Aronson might be able to play for Salzburg in this round of 16. So like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if they come out with some sort of Topps Champions League update product. Now, I don't know if it'd be Topps Chrome or if it'd be Topps Paper. I think eventually we'll get to a point where it's like baseball, where there's Topps Chrome and there's Topps Paper. Now, is Topps Chrome... See, this is going to be the interesting thing with soccer. Like, is Topps Chrome going to be the go-to product if they come out with this other one? Like, or is it I don't know. And I think they need to try and get it into stores, too. That's another thing that I think they need to try and do, is get this Champions League product into stores. I think that would be kind of important. But so, I think they should come out with another product. I mean, or this next product, they have to expand the checklist a little bit, in my opinion. I don't think 100 cards is enough for this type of product. I think in order to maybe gauge a broader audience, they need to be able to include more than 3 to 4 players from each team. And I'm sure some teams probably have 1 or 2 players. But, like, if they're coming out with this product, or they need to figure out a way to come out with, like, some sort of, I don't know exactly how they would do this. Like, they have the Europa League, so I mean that's another way that I think I don't know if they have the licensing or if it's just like anybody can do it because it's Europa versus Champions League. Like, the Mason Greenwood card, I believe, is a Europa League card. I think it is the first rookie. I'm pretty sure it is. But either way, I think they need to expand the checklist a little bit here. I think they need to probably go 150 to 175, try and include more maybe more younger players, or maybe just include as many players on all the big teams as possible. Like, I don't think they can, like, see, this is kind of the thing. It's like when you have these big products, there's going to be, and I think it's a very delicate balance here. Like, do you want everybody in there? Like, for baseball, like, they have most of the rosters at some point throughout the year, they're going to get, one of the players is going to get a card. Do you want all the players getting a card, or do you want it to be like, not all the players get a card, so that way when that card comes out, you're, like, way more excited? I don't know. I'm not sure. Or they do, I don't know. I don't think they would want to do a round of 16 league, Champions League. I think I'm actually interested. I wouldn't be surprised if they push back no, I guess because all the teams would have technically qualified, because it was last season is when they would have qualified for this next upcoming round of the Champions League. I don't know. Or maybe they're planning for Aaronson to be in the product, and, like, if he I don't know, because I'm imagining if it's a February release, they probably have already packed the product. I can't imagine they are, like, last minute packing these products and sending them out to the distributor. Or maybe they are. I don't know. We'll see. But, so it's exciting time for soccer, but that's all I've got for today's episode. So I want to thank you all for listening to the podcast. Because of all of you, I've made the 137 list, which is phenomenal. Thank you all for listening, and I will see you in the next episode.